My Adventures with Superman, Episode 8, Zero Day Part 1. And that's your boy Icon with a DC animated TV review for you, going over that Superman, My Adventures with Superman. And Clark has super hearing now. So nothing happened. There was no traumatic emotional, like scarring that led to this. Like nobody was in danger, like no lives were being threatened. Basically, he was asleep and then he just woke up out of his sleep because he was now able to hear every single person on the planet. And before that happened, we got a prison break because now the General, along with Mandy and Slade, good old Deathstroke, all the brand new metahumans that we saw up until this point, they were all busted out of prison. And Amanda Waller and the General, they just said, hey, listen, today's the day you're going to repay your debt to society, Professor Ivo included. So they get all the villains together and they're going to take down Superman. But now that Superman has this super hearing, he's running all over Metropolis now because he can hear kids across the street, cats being stuck in a tree, robberies across town. He's hearing things like in different places. And he's not at the point where he can control it kind of. So he's literally just exposed to every single person on the planet and all of their thoughts. And then, Jimmy comes home and then Jimmy finds out, he's just like, he was looking for Clark, and then Clark shows up and he's just like, hey, Jimmy, he's just like, yo, you wouldn't believe what happened. He's like, I got super hearing and I can hear everything. And then he was like, well, what's super hearing like? And he just said, everyone has problems, because he can literally hear everyone's thoughts and everything. So Jimmy's trying to talk him off the ledge. He's just like, well, maybe you should calm down and take a breather. He was like, no, Jimmy, because I heard the General. Because the moment when the General broke all of those villains out of prison and he got them all together, Clark heard that and he knew that the General was planning something. But he's not at the point yet where he can pinpoint a location based on what he heard. So he went back out into the streets, to go find the General. He hadn't slept in like a day or two. He's been drinking nothing but coffee. I didn't know coffee affected him, but apparently it does. And like I said, he's just flying around going crazy. So Jimmy's just like, whatever, and he goes to work. And meanwhile, back at the job, since we're talking about work, Perry comes in, he brings Lois and Jimmy into the fold because he wants Lois and Jimmy to hang out with Vicky Vale from Gotham. Perry had said that, Vicky Vale, like she's very prestige, like she garners a lot of attention. And if we can convince her to join the Daily Planet, then, we'll have a leg up on all the competition. So he wanted Jimmy and Lois to take Vicky around the city because she wanted to do a story. Now, my whole thing is, why is Perry not asking about Clark? Clark has been missing for 2 days straight, flying around the world because he can hear every single problem that's going on the planet. Perry doesn't say anything about Clark not being at the he's just like, oh, where's Kent? What happened to that? There's no where's Kent or whatever. So it's just Jimmy and it's just Lois. So they team up with her, and then we find out that Vicky Vale has an obsession with wanting to take down Superman. She said that Superman's public enemy number one, and then Lois, she's trying to defend him. She's like, how do you know that? And then she said that somebody that's all about truth and justice and saving people has something to hide. So she was just like, take me out on Metropolis and we're going to interview the public and get the dirt on Superman. So what Jimmy and Lois do, they end up finding people who were saved by Superman, who had positive encounters with Superman. So when Vicky bumps into them, they don't have anything negative to say, and instead they have nothing but positive things to say about Superman. So then Vicky gets a little upset, and then she ends up finding the one person in the city that hates Superman's guts, which is the assistant of Professor Ivo. Because when she went to him, she said, oh, what do you think about Superman? What's your thoughts on Superman? And then the guy was like, Superman's a menace. He caused all this destruction. He put the people in danger. He said that he destroyed Ivo Labs. And because of that, thousands of people are out of jobs. We're not mentioning the fact that his boss was a psycho, that created a murder suit. We left that part out. But he was just like, oh, Superman's a threat to society. And then Vicky was like, haha. She's like, I got the evidence that I need. But then Lois told her, she was like, yeah, but that was 100% biased, like what that person said. Like that person clearly had an axe to grind against Superman. And then that's when she was just like, yeah, but all the other people that we spoke to, they actually had a positive, thing to say about Superman. We didn't interview anybody that had that never met him and just had like a mutual thought. So she said, like you had your sources, like I got mine. And she said she's going to publish the source and there's nothing that they could do about it. So now they're freaking out. And then they're just like, oh, we got to find Clark and warn Clark about everything that's about to happen. Clark now, he pinpointed some information about the General. And he found out, through Jimmy's like Firebird app, he found out that there was an invisible man out there that the General was trying to find. And then it takes us back to one of the earlier episodes where Siobhan and her brother were trying to pull off that bank heist. Siobhan's brother, we find out he actually escaped from the bank because since he's the Mist or whatever, like he has the power to disappear. So because he disappeared, the cops didn't get him. The general's trying to find him now because he feels that the Mist could be a problem for what he's trying to do. Because again, he's forcing his sister and the other brand new metahumans to go out there and try to kill Superman. Having her brother out there who has like invisibility powers, he obviously wants that on his side, but he doesn't want the kid to talk either, so they're trying to find the kid. So Superman uses his super hearing, he finds the kid, and then he starts chasing the Mist throughout the city, and the Mist is trying to get away. This would have been the perfect time to introduce X-ray vision, which they didn't introduce. But anyway, so now there's a moment where Clark is flying, he sees the kid, like he sees the Mist. He's flying towards the Mist to try to grab him so he can like reel him in and talk him down. And then just before he grabbed him, the kid was about to get hit by a truck. So Clark put on the super jets, he knocked the kid out of the way and saved him, and then Clark took the impact from the truck and he stopped the truck. Unfortunately, Clark stopping the truck, it caused an 18-car pileup, and now there was all this damage and all this destruction, and because nobody could see the invisible kid, the Mist, everybody just thought Clark was just doing some dumb shit, and they're just like, bro, like, you just caused an accident, and everybody's like, oh, Superman has too much power, and he's dangerous, and what happens if he gets mad one day and decides to take over the planet? Lois is hearing all this, and now she's thinking about what she saw with the cube, with Superman turning evil, and then she's just like, no, this can't be my Clark, you know, he wouldn't do evil things. So she's all emotionally screwed up, but she still believes in Clark at the end of the day. Clark ends up catching the kid, and then the kid was just like, listen, he said, you can take me to prison if you want, but you got to help me save my sister. He's like, I just want to save my sister who's under the control of the general. So Superman's like, all right, fine. So the two of them, they go together and they go to stop the general. They run up on the general, and it's the type of thing where you feel like his sister needed saving. That's what he said. He said, my sister needs help. My sister needs help. He finds his sister, and his sister attacks him along with the rest of the metahumans. So now there's this big fight in the middle of the park where all the metahumans, including Superman, are having this big fight. Slade's involved too. They're all going back and forth, fighting. And then finally, Lois and Jimmy show up at the end. Well, they got there. It was too late by the time they got there. But the forces of evil were too strong. They ended up like weakening Clark, who was already in a tired state because he hadn't slept in like 2 or 3 days. They ended up weakening Clark. They got him down for the count. And the general kidnapped Clark, put him into the spaceship or the rocket or the airplane or the carrier, the helicarrier, whatever. He put him in the carrier, and now they're going to take Clark back to the general, and the general's going to do God knows what. And by the time Lois and Jimmy got there, they looked up when it was too late, and they saw the aircraft flying off with Superman in it. So now Superman has been captured, and then we also find out that Vicky Vale never actually cared about joining the Gazette. She just wanted to do the story about Superman so she can get a promotion at her job at the Gotham Gazette. And I wonder if this will introduce Batman, because now that we're bringing up Gotham and we're bringing up Vicky Vale and we're bringing up the Gotham Gazette, and now that Superman has been captured, you can't tell me that Lois and Jimmy are going to save the day. Like, like that would be complete and utter foolishness. There has to be one other powered person. Maybe they team up with because I forgot what happened to the brother. Like when the fight happened in the park, I think they caught the brother, because I did see a scene where he had like a collar around his neck. I don't know if they caught the brother or not, but they need to recruit somebody, whether they get the Lois Brigade or whatever the case may be, because Clark needs help. He's under the control of evil. That was how the episode ended, and thanks for tuning in. So here's my whole thing. So now in part 2, we're gonna get a little bit more information about what's going on with Clark and how Clark ties into all these super weapons that have been dispersed throughout, Metropolis. We're going to get more information about that. Here's what I would like to see. I don't know if it's going to happen, but this is what I would like to see. Because it's obvious that the weapons that are being used were forged through Kryptonian technology. And unless you got your hands on Clark's ship as a baby, which they clearly do not, there is no way they could have used his ship to forge these Kryptonian weapons. So the question is, how did they forge these Kryptonian weapons? And I call them Kryptonian weapons because every time Clark comes in contact with one of these weapons, he gets some weird flashback to Krypton. So there's a connection here. So there had to have been another ship where they mined it and used its technology and everything to build their weapons. The only other ship that exists in DC lore that they could have got their hands on belongs to the pod that Supergirl was in. So we may find out in the season finale that Supergirl is secretly like a captive of the U.S. military. They have her ship, and they built all their weapons based on her ship. That would be dope. I don't know, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But like I said, but share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. What do you think is gonna happen? How are we gonna save Clark? Because you can't tell me Clark's gonna save himself, and for the love of God, like Lois and Jimmy aren't gonna save him either. So do we get a Batman cameo? Does Batman show up? You know, like does another hero show up? But share your questions down below, and we'll continue to talk about it. Check me out on Twitter and or Instagram, or check me out on X and Instagram, always on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. I got Harley Quinn on the channel. I got the season finale of Warrior on my channel, and I got that Blue Beetle, y'all. So that was it. So until next week for day 2, part 2. There was a day 0, part 2 of my adventures with Superman. Take care, up and away, and we're out this beyond.